of the most consistent and underrated point guards of the 2010s, Darren Collison, joins me, Mikey Domagala, for episode 51 of Inside Buzz. We'll talk about his career, how he's currently training some of the best players in the NBA, wanting to make an NBA comeback at 35 years old, and more. Collison played on numerous NBA teams from 2009 to 2019, including New Orleans, Indiana, Dallas, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Sacramento Kings, before retiring at the end of the 2018-2019 season. He's a career 12.5 points and 5.0 assists per game player and helped many teams win in his prime. Collison came out of retirement in 2021 to help LeBron James and Anthony Davis's Los Angeles Lakers on a 10-day contract. Like I mentioned earlier, he's now trying to make an NBA comeback as he's tried out for a few teams, including the Phoenix Suns. Darren, welcome to episode 51 of Inside Buzz. Thanks for all the support on Instagram and social media, and it's a pleasure to have you.
I got you, man. Thank you for having me.
It was reported that earlier in the summer you worked out for the Phoenix Suns. How'd that workout go? And are other teams showing interest?
Yeah, the workout went well. I was excited to get the invite, you know what I mean, and just kind of showcase my skills and where I'm at right now. I was able to have a great workout, and it turned out really well for me. And so we're just moving forward and just going based on the process, and we'll see what's next.
How I see it, the Phoenix Suns are kind of lacking some point guard depth. After your workout, they actually traded Cameron Payne. They announced Bradley Beal would be, the starting point guard. He's a traditional shooting guard. What could you bring to that team if they were to sign you?
You can never go wrong with leadership. I think Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, are really, suited for that area anyways. But, for me personally, I always felt like they always need like a good locker room guy too as well. And you can never go wrong with that. And somebody that can still play, defense. And so, for me, it was like helping them out defensively and giving the leadership that they need.
You were talking about veterans and you being a vet. The NBA is so young now. I look at teams like OKC, Houston, Detroit. I look at Memphis and, that whole Ja Morant situation, them needing a vet, people say. How important are veterans in the NBA?
I think veterans are extremely important. You hear Damian Lillard has voiced it, that one or two veterans for every team is definitely useful. We have a lot of young, talented guys in this league, and the league is in a good place with so many good young players. But, there's always something that can be said, at the given moment with these young players. Like, they don't have all the answers, just like we didn't have all the answers, and we needed somebody that was older than us to kind of show us the ropes a little bit. But, it's up to that team to prioritize that and see if that's a need that they need. But you look around the league that definitely has it. They have the veteran leadership. They're having success. You look at Miami, everybody, has their thing to say about Udonis Haslem, but, Miami seems to be in the mix every single time. And yeah, you can say, oh, well, they got Jimmy Butler, they got Bam. Yeah, that's true. They definitely have some talented guys on their team, but guys like Udonis Haslem at the given moment can say the right things at the given time, especially when your team is not playing well in the beginning of the season. That's when the veteran leadership steps up. When guys is arguing, guys is not getting along with the coaches, that veteran leadership kind of bridges the gap. So there's a lot of different things that veteran would bring to the table, and it's just up to the team if they prioritize that or not.
Who was that guy or those players in your career who are your vets coming up in New Orleans and your young Indiana days? Who are those guys?
New Orleans, James Posey, David West, Peja Stojakovic, Mike Dunleavy, Jeff Foster. I can go on and on, but those guys were very essential in helping me how to be a pro. It's one thing to be a good NBA player, but it's another thing to be a good pro, right? Pro brings consistency. And when you see those guys do things over and over the right way, consistent, not only helps the team out successfully, but, individually, you can have like a long career. And I was fortunate to play 10, 11 years in the NBA, and it had a lot to do with the guys that, were ahead of me, and they were older than me, and showed me the right way and how to play the game and how to take care of my body, how to do things the right way.
Back to the Ja Morant topic, I'm so excited for, when he comes back from his suspension, because they signed Derrick Rose. D Rose came in around the same time you did. I mean, MVP caliber guy, been around every situation. Do you think Ja will elevate his game and his mental with D Rose that much because of that signing?
Ja is going to elevate his game because of who he is. You know, as a player, you can't be that good and not continue to grow and improve. And I think he's about to have his best season yet. I know a lot of people's giving him a hard time. You know, he's young, but he'll get it. He'll get it right eventually. And you know, for guys like Ja Morant and all these young guys, you just gotta stay in their corner as much as you can. You know what I mean? Everybody make mistakes. You know, will we have liked to see some of the mistakes that's being made? No, of course not. But at the end of the day, we can't just jump on one guy and get on him for the mistakes he's made when we all have made mistakes at that age, right? So I'm more than confident that Ja is going to be where he needs to be, if not better. I consider him as one of the MVP candidates, for years to come. You know, he's definitely helped that team in so many different ways where that team, without Ja Morant, probably wouldn't have been on the map the way they are right now. You know what I mean? So you got to give him credit where credit is due. Obviously, when you add D Rose to the equation, yes, it can help out. So it's not just him, but it can help out the team as well. And I think D Rose is going to do a good job regardless.
For sure, I can't wait. And Darren, your eye for talent with 10 years in the NBA was sharp. Now it's even sharper around basketball every day, training all kinds of levels. Tell me about Pro Vision training and how you got started with that, and when you got started.
Yeah, so towards the end of my career, when I kind of knew I wasn't going to play as much because I wanted to be home with my family, I knew I still had to be involved with basketball, and I love basketball to death. And you just can't be at home doing nothing, right? So I kind of wanted to do something for myself, and so me, Sean Marshall, Paris Blackwell, Calvin Mitchell, we all came up with this idea that we want to kind of train, some of the kids within our area, and it's worked out thus far. It's more interactive training. It's not just training where you just go out there and you just shoot and you just get a sweat in. No, it's like you're learning the game. You're learning the game from whatever position you're at, and you're being guarded by guys that 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 are very active in the training as much as the players, right? So you see some of these players where they're just going out and just shooting, but they're not really getting a good sweat or getting the knowledge that they need, right? So you're getting a little bit of everything. If I don't say something, Sean is going to say something. Sean don't say something, Paris will say something. Paris will say something, Calvin's going to say something. So I just think the way the game is going, I think these kids can learn a good service by understanding the game rather just playing the game, right? And we do a little bit of both.
So I had Raymond Felton on probably about 2 months ago, and he's an AAU coach, has his own training thing as well, and one of the Carolinas, I believe. Now, the question I asked him was, what are your thoughts when you see mixtapes and highlights, but when they get to the NBA or college, they don't know the true game, like kind of you just mentioned. What are your thoughts on that?
I just think, scouts, whether it's college scouts or NBA scouts, they kind of got to do their own homework and do their own research. If you're gonna scout a guy over highlight film, then that's kind of on you, right? You got to actually go to the game and see areas where they can improve on. And yes, I mean, look, everybody has highlight films. Shoot, I got a highlight film even now. Like everybody does. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's the area that we live in, right? But at the end of the day, you just got to assess yourself honestly and ask yourself, like, what can I do better as a player? How can I be better as a player? And am I going to get caught up in the social media hype, or am I going to stay grounded and work on something that, is a weakness of my game? And so it's up to the players to do that, but it's also up to the scouts to know more about that player if he goes to the games frequently.
Very well said. And I see you train young ballers, high school, college, and then some of the best in the NBA. What's one constant that you teach no matter what, whether mentally or physically with the basketball, to all of them, no matter the level?
I'm big, Mike, on going hard in the drills. I mean, everybody thinks they're going hard, but when you watch guys like KD, LeBron, Russ, Steph, all these all stars, Hall of Famers that's been in the NBA for years and years, they're going hard even now. You know what I mean? They're heading into their mid 30s. Bron's about to touch 40, and he's going harder than some of the players that just got into the league. That doesn't, you know what I mean? That doesn't make sense, right? But when you look at it and you look at how LeBron has shaped out his career and Steph, it makes sense from that standpoint, right? But I always try to teach guys to go hard in every drill, every rep. Don't take it for granted because these reps and drills is gonna, catapult you to being who you want to be in your career down the road, right? If you're going into the gym, Mikey, and you're just going half speed and you may feel like you're working out, it's not going to suit you better, moving forward. This is a talented league. You know what I mean? If you don't work hard, somebody else is going to work harder than you.
I saw on your Instagram you were in the gym with Kyrie Irving last week. Now, what's Kyrie looking like right now? And is he the most skilled player the NBA has ever seen?
I think he's the most skilled guard that we've seen in a while, if not ever. Kyrie is somebody who's mastered right hand as much as his left hand, where most players they're just good at their right hand and they're okay with their left hand. Like Kyrie's equally as good at both hands, right? And he's just a talented player, even better person once you get to know him. But there's nothing on the court that he can't do. You know what I mean? He can score all three levels. He's really good from the 3-point range. He's ISOs. He can post up. He can go to the basket with his left or right hand. I mean, you can look on the league, like there's not many guards in the league that can do what he does on a nightly basis.
He's an elite ball handler. You're a great ball handler. Still are, I see in your Instagram highlights. You with the Drew League still got the ball on a string. What does it take to be a great ball handler?
Just work. Just constant repetition, and just understanding like, look, if your left hand is kind of shaky and you need to work on it, that's something that you probably got to put more of a focus on, right? And every day you got to continue to stick to the script. You know what I mean? You can't skip steps, and it's going to be hard. There's going to be some days where you'd be like, okay, I want to work on something else. But no, if that's something that you have to continue to work on every single day, you got to be committed to that and you got to go hard at it. So it's just constant reps and just getting better through your workouts, with whatever weaknesses you have, like I mentioned earlier.
So I know you've worked out with Paolo Banchero for a lot of years now. I mean, reigning rookie of the year, had a phenomenal rookie year. What were you most impressed with? And actually, he's been working out with Kevin Durant this summer. So what were you most impressed with, and what do you think he could learn from KD?
So I was really impressed with his size and his IQ. I don't think many people know his story. He was a quarterback, right? And a lot of people don't know that. Like for somebody to be a quarterback, your IQ has to be at a high level, right? So for me, he understands the game at a high level. He has the size to play pretty much, the 4 or the 5 or even the 3, but he can handle like a guard, right? So I mean, it just adds to his versatility. And I think Paolo's going to be a very good player in this league for a very, very long time. I think Orlando has something special. Extremely good kid, man. He's fun to be around. You know what I mean? And for him to work out with Kevin Durant, he's going to see the level of intensity that you got to work at to be great.
Just like you mentioned, that all the greats have. Another guy, that was one of 3 young players you've trained that I'm going to bring up. Second, Chet Holmgren, 7'1", finally healthy. What's his rookie year going to look like?
I think Chet's going to be, flat out amazing. Chet is somebody that works extremely hard. He doesn't take reps for granted. You look at Chet in the gym, he's going hard. And never did I have to tell Chet, hey, Chet, like, yeah, you should do this or you should go hard at this. And no, there's nothing need to be said, right? And he understands the game even at that age too, as well. These kids are coming in, their IQ, well, especially those two, their IQ is extremely high. But I think more importantly, Chet's going to bring something defensively to OKC that they may have been missing or they probably need from him. So I think if Chet continues to help that team out defensively with his length and his size, I think he has a chance he can be a defensive player of the year, down the road. You know what I mean? I just think he just has to continue to work in that area. There's some things that he hasn't seen yet because he hasn't played. But once he gets caught on, I think he's going to have a chance to be one of the best defensive players in the league for a while.
And Jalen Green, I saw you guys were playing one-on-one with him back in like his senior year of high school. Now he's made tremendous strides since then. What can you say about him as an NBA pro right now, and what's his potential as a shooting guard in this league?
This is a big year for Jalen Green. They just got a very good coach, Eddie Meke. They got Fred VanVleet, who's a really good point guard. Dylan Brooks, who's one of the best defenders, in this league from the wing position. So they have some help, right? So I think if you look at Jalen Green and what he's done last year with his scoring, he has a chance to, take it to another level. You know what I mean? Because they should be winning more with the help that they have. Jalen Green is special. A lot of times when you're scoring a lot of points and you're losing, everybody kind of overlooks that because you're not winning, rightfully so, right? But, with the help that he has, there's no doubt in my mind that Jalen Green is going to be one of the best two guards in this league, moving forward. He's another hard worker. He loves the work. And he's just a good kid, man. Like, he's always listening to the coach, always listening to what he has to do to be a better player. And that's the first signs of being a great player. For him to be that young and to be attentive to what needs to be done, needs to be heard from his coach to be better is tremendous. It doesn't come like that all the time, especially for his stature. So, I expect him to have a really good year. I think Frank VanVleet's going to have a big part of that too because he has a really good point guard to play with him.
You came in the league in 2009, 10 solid years till 2019, that 10-day with the Lakers. You've seen the changes of the NBA. What are your thoughts on the play style and the skill set differential from when you first came in until pretty much now in the NBA?
I think when I first came into the league, it was more of a traditional 4-5 style of play where, like, your power forward wasn't really shooting threes as much. It was like like long mid-range twos. And then your bigs, you still had your Dwights that would roll to the basket and stuff, but it was more traditional. Nowadays, it's, bigs can shoot threes, bigs can bring up the ball, the floor, and handle it like guards. It's the league is fun, you know what I mean? It's more up and down. That's kind of how I like playing. Speed up and down, trying to get these baskets as much as you can and stuff like that. So I enjoy watching the NBA. I know a lot of people criticize because it's a lot of threes, but it's because these guys can shoot threes. You know what I mean? So before they weren't taught to shoot a lot of threes, but you're seeing the players come in the NBA and having a clip already and being able to know how to shoot from beyond the arc at a high level. So I mean, if you can do it, you can do it. And if you can implement it into your system where it helps you out and get easy baskets, so what? So not.
And that brings me to this. Will Victor Wembanyama, will his game translate, and will he live up to the height? You mentioned Chet Holmgren, similar body type, not as tall, but will Victor kind of have success in the NBA right away?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, you see it in the summer league. You see, he's being surrounded by some of the best, players and people in Greg Popovich, Tim Duncan, Ginobili, Tony Parker. These are guys that's won at a high level, not just one time, not just two, but over and over and over again, right? So when you're surrounded by that type of company, you have no choice but to be successful. Now, as a player, all he has to do is just take it in, listen, understand what the foundation is, and kind of create his own foundation as he's playing. He's going to be there for a very long time, and he's going to be one of the leaders already, even as a young player. But if you look at his skill set from a 7'5" standpoint, his be able to shoot, dribble. I mean, he's shooting shots off one leg, three pointers, like catching and shooting, coming off screens. It's truly remarkable. The thing that impresses me is his ability to pass. I didn't know he could pass at that height. You know what I mean? So that just lets me know that he's willing to get his teammates better. So whenever you can score and get your teammates better, I mean, those are usually the good players that can be in the league for a very long time.
That 2009 NBA draft class, is it one of the most underrated ever? I'm going to name some names: yourself, Steph Curry, Blake Griffin, James Harden, Tyreke Evans, DeRozan, Holiday, Lawson, Danny Green, and many others. It's not spoken about that much. Is it very underrated?
Extremely. I think when you guys said something about it, I kind of reposted it because I felt like it is. A lot of people don't give our class a lot of credit because when you look at our draft class, you just look at how it's top heavy. Like, you look at Blake Griffin, James Harden, like those are the guys like they're the top picks. But Steph didn't get drafted till I think 7 or 8. And if you keep going down the list, you got Brandon Jennings, you got Drew Holiday, you got even DeMar DeRozan, who's having a phenomenal career. Ty Lawson went late, and he was one of the premier point guards in our draft class. I went 21st. You know what I'm saying? So every player has been in the league for 10 plus years and had an impact with their team. Most drafts, you could just stop at the first 10 and then you could say, okay, I can see why some of those dudes are still in the league, but our draft class is not just top heavy. You got to go through the entire draft class and look at their careers. And we definitely had some success, all of us, in the league for a very long time.
When you came in with New Orleans, Chris Paul was at the one. What did you learn from him as a rookie? And then a few years later, when you met him again in LA with the Clippers?
The first time I met Chris, I think he came to it was like some lunch that I had after I got drafted. And he showed me what leadership is about, right? Like he went out his way to meet me and my parents to have lunch and just to kind of stop in and kind of get to know me and vice versa. And he didn't have to, you know what I mean? I'm the same position as him, but that's when I realized, okay, like there's levels to leadership, right? And you can't just lead just a small portion of the team. You got to lead everybody else, and he's done that in practice. He's always talking to try to help people out. When we do running lines, he was always one of the first people like to beat everybody up and down. He just wanted to lead by example, and he did that. And that was one of the things that struck me as a player was like, if I want to be a really good player, I got to be a really good leader too as well. And I took a lot from him from that.
And how will he fit with the Golden State Warriors? And will he start or come off the bench? I mean, do you see Steve Kerr running CP3, Steph Curry, and Clay in the starting lineup?
I think with that level of IQ players, you can make anything work. I think a lot of times people are so caught up on positions. You just got to be able to have the understanding of how to play the game. And you look at CP, I mean, his IQ is probably one of the best, if not the best in our league. And then you got guys like Draymond Green and Steph, and those guys are winners too as well. So if you mix that, they can have success, with their team because of that.
So when you're in Indiana, starting point guard alongside Danny Granger, and a lot of people forget how good, bad meaning good, that guy was in his prime before injuries. What do you remember from Danny Granger?
Yeah, Danny Granger was one of the best players at the time when I played with him. You're talking about he was 6'8", can post, can shoot threes, had a mid-range game, could play a little bit of pick and roll. I think he averaged like 22 plus points like every season I was there. And he was Paul George's mentor too. It's like Paul George came up under Danny Granger, right? So a lot of how Paul George, the know-how to score. I'm not talking about the skill set because their skills is different, but the know-how to score, like he kind of learned from Danny Granger, and Danny Granger did a good job of kind of molding Paul George the whole entire time. But yeah, I mean, Danny Granger was probably one of the best players at that time, and if you were fortunate enough to see him play, you understand why.
Exactly, and my next question is right about Paul George. The raw version of Paul George as a rookie, did you see it in his game and his skill set that he'd become the Paul George he became?
To be honest, Mike, no. I mean, how can you see all these young players he wasn't even playing I think when I first got there, he didn't play towards the end. So there was nothing for him to show that I could have seen. The only thing that I knew about Paul George was that he was there in practice every single time, and he was working just as hard, even though he wasn't playing in the games. But the time that I did notice and that I felt like, okay, he can be something in this league was towards the end. And when we were playing in the playoffs against Derrick Rose and the Bulls, he took on the challenge of guarding Derrick Rose. You know what I mean? He didn't back down from him. He really tried to make it tough. I mean, Derrick Rose he was tough to guard, period. But for him to not back down and challenge and being like a first year, second year player in the league, I mean, was truly remarkable. That's when I was like, okay, he has a chance to be really good in this league. And then he has his length. He's tall. He was streaky at that time, but he was confident. You know what I mean? He never was afraid to shoot any shot that he didn't want to shoot. He was always aggressive. And that's one thing I respected about him. And you kind of tell like he was going to be a player down the road.
Your 2013-14 Clippers, that 1 year you spent there, stacked roster, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, JJ Redick, Jamal Crawford, and that bench was so deep with so many great vets. Why couldn't that team win a championship?
That's a great question, Mike. I mean, we should have definitely went further than what we were expected to. I just think it just came down to a lot of different things. Even though on paper we look good, I just think from a mental standpoint, we just didn't have what it takes to be champions. That's to be totally honest. And that's no shade on anybody, but you got to be strong, and I'm sure to win the finals or to make it to the finals mentally, and you got to come together when times are not as good, as for a team standpoint. And we just didn't come together for whatever reason. Very talented group. We had the ability to win, but when it came down to and we hit adversity, we just didn't come together as a team like we need to be. But every one of those players I'm cool with to this day because of who they are. You know what I mean? They're very talented players too, as well, and they've all had successful careers. Whether it's Blake, CP, obviously, DJ just won a championship. JJ Redick, you see what he's doing on and off the court. Same thing with Matt Barnes, Jamal Crawford. I mean, Willie Green's now a head coach. We don't need to say much about Doc Rivers. Even from our training staff, from Jason Powell, I mean, it was just a talented roster of guys from the coaching staff to the players. But there is no reason why we shouldn't have won it. And the only thing I can chalk it up as is that mentally we weren't strong enough, when it came down to the adversity.
Very interesting. Very interesting from the outside looking in that you're right. You guys just didn't come up big when it mattered in the playoffs. Whether it's against San Antonio, I don't know if it was that year or the years after. It just adversity. You just got to come through like Denver did, and Miami especially did this season.
Doc Rivers has said something about we didn't I don't know. I gotta read his whole quotes, but he has said something like how he felt like we never had a chance to win, or I don't know, whatever the case was or whatever. But I disagree. We that team had a chance to win. You know what I mean? And I honestly felt like if we stuck together just for another year or so, I think we probably would have had a chance to win down the road.
And what about your 3 years in Sacramento? I mean, you averaged your most points, most assists in that one season alongside Boogie Cousins. After this question, I'm going to ask you why he's not still in the NBA, because in my opinion, he should be. But prime DeMarcus Cousins in the NBA right now, next to Embiid and Jokic, where does he fit in that 3-tier totem pole?
That's tough. I think he would have been judged the same as all those players, because if you look at what Cuz was doing back then, is essentially what we praise our five now, our big men now. Like before, big men's, they weren't shooting threes. Cuz was one of the first bigs to shoot threes, and George Karl, when he implemented his system, he wanted everybody to shoot threes, including DeMarcus Cousins. So when Cuz started shooting threes, it was over, because he was, in my opinion, by far the best skilled big man at that time. He can score inside. He was stoppable inside. And then when he added the 3-point to his game and he was shooting threes, it was over. You know what I mean? So we're judging all these other bigs the same way. You know what I mean? You look at Joker, who's one of my favorite players, because of how he plays the game. He just plays it the right way. He does everything. There's not something that he can't do. You know what I mean? And then Embiid is the MVP. He's unstoppable inside, and he can also shoot threes. But DeMarcus was doing all that, at that time.
Darren, I got to press you a little bit. Start, bench, cut. Of the three, which one is it?
Oh, man, dude. Nah, I can't answer that question.
You can't go wrong with any of them. I'm starting Jokic. I'm benching Cousins, and I'm probably cutting Embiid.
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I got my friends, and all those players can start for me.
Perfect. I get it. Like I said, DeMarcus Cousins, why isn't he in the NBA right now, and should he be?
I don't know. I mean, I think DeMarcus can bring a level of experience. We talk about that veteran leadership because he's been through it all. He's had success, from him as a player, and he's had his down moments, as all of us have. So when you become older, you become wiser, and you kind of want to share those experiences with the younger players. And not only that, DeMarcus can help a team out too, right? So you're going to get the veteran leadership, and you're going to get a player that can help you on a nightly basis. He can still score inside. He's still a great passer. You know what I mean? And I just think a team definitely has to really look into seeing if he can help them or not. Because if you look at what he brings to the table, there's no reason why he shouldn't be in the league. But it's just how this league is. You know what I mean? It could be some politics involved into it, or whatever the case may be. But definitely if I'm running an NBA team and I needed a backup big or to sometimes start, depending on what the situation is, I'm having DeMarcus Cousins on my team all day.
And Darren, you were always, 36, 40% three-point shooter. In 2017-18, you shoot an NBA best 47% from three. What clicked that year that you made half of your threes an entire season, which is incredible?
I mean, just hearing that stat is crazy. But I mean, yeah, I didn't even know it was 47%. A lot of it too, I play with good players too, so I'm not gonna just take all the credit. You know what I mean? Victor Oladipo was probably one of the best guards at the time that could get inside the paint and kick out. Darius Young was a really good passer. Um, your defense creates your offense. Miles Turner was a really good shot blocker at the time that gave us a lot of easy 3-pointers, in transition. So it wasn't just all me, obviously, I put in the work, but, I like to thank my teammates too for helping me with that too as well. So it was a combination of everything.
I mentioned you spent a little time in LA with LeBron and AD. You saw that culture. You saw how they get down. They had a great offseason with new additions. Jackson Hayes and so many other guys that they needed. Will that team win a championship over the next 2 years while LeBron is still LeBron?
I mean, they definitely have a shot. They have the pieces, so why not, right? I think Kurt, Linda, and Jeannie have been good, in terms of like taking care of their players. So like when you get there, like you're gonna be taken care of. You know what I'm saying? So now you just gotta go out there and produce. You know what I mean? But I think like that organization has done a great job with Rob Pelinka doing a great job of adding the pieces that Bron needs for him to compete in a championship for the remainder years. And I think they have a shot. I mean, they have a lot of versatility in terms of the defenders. And then they have shooting as well. They have a good coach. So they definitely have a good shot of trying to win it this year.
In your 10 years in the NBA, you came across some elite point guards and guards. Who are the toughest guys you ever had to guard?
Man, every time somebody asks me that question, it's so hard for me because I was fortunate to play in an era right now that every point guard was extremely good. It wasn't just one or two point guards that was good and that was it. I remember when I first came in the league, it was you just had your Rondos, your Chris Pauls, your Darren Williams, and then Derrick Rose is coming up, but it was just like 4 or 5 guards were really good, and then everybody else was like solid, right? But man, every night you're talking about Darren Fox. Your next night you're playing against Steph. Then you're on a back-to-back against Damian Lillard. Then you may have to play Kemba, Kyrie, it, Kyle Lowry, Goran Dragic, who was a dog at that time. And then now you got to do a Luka, Ja Morant. I mean, the list just goes on and on from a point guard standpoint. It's really fun when you got to compete every single night, and it's one of the best. And that's kind of what I enjoyed the most is competing against all the best point guards on a nightly basis. You can't get better than it.
Now, those guys, you kind of mentioned some pure point guards. You mentioned some more dynamic point guards. That makes me ask you, is the pure point guard moniker kind of done in the NBA now with positionless basketball?
I think when people talk about pure point guard, they expect like you just a pass and not score, right? But point guards can score 30 to 40 points just as good as any other scorer in the league or scoring guard in the league. And I think people get it confused, like because a point guard is giving you 30 to 40 points, he's not a pure point guard. But if you look at his stats, he's giving you between 8 to 10 assists. You know what I mean? That's phenomenal. So I just think sometimes we get caught up in the idea of what a point guard should be, but you just got to look at how is he impacting winning, right? And if he's impacting winning and he's scoring 30, 40 points and he's giving you 7, 8 assists, then he's doing his job, right? Because there's some pure point guards in the past that will give you 10 to 15 assists, maybe 10 points, and their team doesn't win, right? So it just depends on what your team needs, but I don't think we should judge it whether it's a pure point guard or scoring point guard that can help you win. It's just how your team is designed and what fits you the best.
And Darren, last one, build your all-time starting 5 of teammates that you've had. You could put yourself at the 1, you could leave yourself out. I'll let you decide.
Oh my gosh, Mikey. Dang, man. Oh my gosh. All right. I would go with I definitely would go with Victor at the 2, Victor Oladipo at the 2. Um, Paul George at the 3. Um,
David West at the
yes.
4.
Woo. Yeah, I definitely would. I think I would go with David West at the 4. And then I'm going to go with the big dog, Roy Hibbert, at the 5.
Okay. And yourself at the 1?
Of course. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Yeah.
And
You know, I forgot you were in Dallas, and during that team was still kind of stacked with the guys they won a championship with. Dirk, of course, at the top. Vince Carter was damn good that year. Sean Marion's still good. What do you remember about all those vets in Dallas?
We came there right after they won the championship, so there was like no mistakes we could have made after that year. For me, I just got a chance to like watch how Dirk did things. You know, when I get to a team, you know, I always like to focus on the best player and his, you know, his mannerism and how he treats himself, how he conducts himself as a leader, and how he does things from a basketball standpoint. That's what I like enjoying about being with one of the great players. And Dirk Nowitzki exemplified all that. I mean, he worked day in, day out. You know, whether it's before shoot around, after shoot around, he just worked so religiously and he worked so hard. And that was something that I picked up. So even though we didn't make it to the playoffs that year, it wasn't a lost cause for me because I got to learn from him. And also, too, I was under Rick Carlisle, who's one of the best coaches that has his league seen. You know, he was extremely hard on me. But things that I took from that helped me become a better player down the road.
And I always ask people who were teammates with Vince Carter. Now, that year, Vince was probably 37. Was he still throwing down crazy dunks in practice?
Yes, for sure. Like, like it was crazy. Nothing was missing. Obviously, he wasn't putting his arm through the rim like he used to, but he was still athletic at 37, and he was still dunking. He was one of the best teammates I've had, too, because, I mean, you think of everything that he's accomplished, he never dogged you out or make you feel little than him. Like he never belittled anybody. He was just real humble. He was real humble, and he always wanted to help people. And if you talk to Vince to this day, that's just how it's going to be too. It's the same way.
For Darren Collison, I'm Mikey Domagala, and that was episode 51 of Inside Buzz. Darren, it was a pleasure to get you on, and I appreciate you answering all my questions, even some you didn't want to answer, which is all good.
Mikey, thank you for having me, and it was a real good interview on your part.
Follow Collison on Instagram at Darren Collison _ and his training page at Provision _. For more NBA content and all new NBA interviews, subscribe here on YouTube and check out NBA Buzz on all platforms.